Got it.
Почнали? Oh,
Да.
hello, my astrology friends. This is Lada from astrolada.com, and today I'm here with sidereal Babylonian ancient astrologer Krasi Attasio, who is leading us through the month of May with especially focus on the eclipse that is coming.
Got it.
And she's gonna cover all the 12 signs for sidereally and tropically. If those of you who don't know, sidereal is the actual constellations that were used in ancient times. Or if you don't know, use the normal Western tropical sign, which is 1 degree ahead. She'll mention both signs. They're just the same names, but they are two different zodiacs that don't coincide. Hello, Krasi. And I'm
Hello.
excited. Eclipses are always
Yes.
exciting time.
Yes, Wada. Many events are happening now in May. We are also in the middle of this so-called Eclipse Corridor because just yesterday on the 20th, yesterday on the 20th, we had the solar eclipse. And now on the 5th, 6th of May, we have the lunar eclipse. Now, these two eclipses are not very, very different from the eclipses which took place last year. Last year, we also had 4 eclipses on the same sidereal axis, which is Aries Libra. I even think that these eclipses are a little bit milder, softer, not that afflicting, because the difference is that last year, Saturn was squaring the eclipse, the lunar nodes, and with this, the eclipse points from Capricorn. Now Saturn is in sidereal Aquarius, where he will be staying almost 3 years, 2.5 years. The other great difference, very interesting, very ominous, is the presence of Jupiter. Now, many things are said when Jupiter is participating in the eclipse. And I will say some Babylonian interesting omens, which I was researching just yesterday. First of all, Jupiter is was invisible yesterday when the first eclipse took place. And Jupiter was also in Aries, where the moon and the sun made conjunction. Thus, the eclipse took place with Jupiter. When the second eclipse will take place, Jupiter will be also in Aries and still invisible. But more interesting is, what is Jupiter doing there? What is his role? Jupiter in the ancient world, in the ancient Babylonian world, was god Marduk. And he was called also the king. You know, Nabu, Mercury, was his son, and he was called the prince. Mercury, Jupiter was always classically, traditionally, in any mythology, any astrology, a very benevolent. Of course, he's the greatest benevolent star, but he represents the king. And in the world, the kings, this in general would not be just the kings, but also the kings, because in the Arab worlds we have kings. In some, even in, let's say in Holland, you have king, in many other countries too. But Jupiter can easily represent any high political figure, not only the kings. And Jupiter will be right in the middle of the eclipse. And I read something very interesting, Wada. Of course, invisible on one hand, Jupiter, which is not very good. But secondly, eclipsed in the eclipse points, Jupiter, as king, would mean the king is endangered. Of course, like I said, this could represent any high political figure. Mm-hmm. What the ancients said, when this is happening in this very month, when this is happening on the 29th lunar day, as it was yesterday, I think it was important in which watch, because, we had class with you on the ancient perspective on the eclipses. So they say that this will be bad for the king. The king can die. But then they say something very interesting, but the king will survive because he will be replaced. And here is the interesting thing, because they had this practice, which is not actually uncommon today, I think. When they see there is a bad omen for the king, they would take replacement. And there was even one just in Iraq. There was just today I saw this translation from a cuneiform how there was a king in Iraq, in Babylon. This is contemporary Iraq, and how he was replaced by his gardener because they saw there is.
For the eclipse time.
But the king actually died, and the gardener stayed. And remained, replaced the king for long, you know. So anyhow, this replacement was meant during the ominous period, the dangerous period, the person who is replacing to get the evil, and the king is staying safe, right? Mm-hmm. So this is the idea, and there is indeed, on one hand, they say, when there is a benevolent star participating in the eclipse like Venus or Jupiter, then the evil will be destroyed. But Jupiter is invisible, and the omen says that is dangerous for high political figures. So you will see interesting thing. Now the point is how long this danger exists, how long? Because the first eclipse happens classically in the first watch, morning watch, and completes the watch. They say up to 10 months influence.
So morning watch for where though? It's happening in the morning in which part of the world?
Well, yes, I thought about this. In the state, yesterday I was checking. Now for the for Europe, yes, it is morning. For the States, it was late night.
Yeah.
Late night, last evening watch, when also completed, because it was completed, more than 3 months influence. So the countries where you would see where the eclipse took place in the evening watch, which was the States, other parts of the world, yes, people have to see, they know, everyone followed approximately when the eclipse took place. For Europe, this was early morning watch. For the Arabic world, this was early morning watch, you know. Then the influence will be not that long, up to 10 months. Now, the other thing was which countries will be influenced. The lunar day of the first eclipse and the watch is pointing eventually towards Russia and Iran. But there is also influence on Europe, because, again, we're calculating the watches, the lunar days. I don't want to get into this detail. Then for the second one, it will be more afflicting on Europe now, and also Russia. Now the thing is that we also look at the countries where the eclipse will be, where the shadow of the eclipse will be visible, right? Where the shadow will be covering. The first eclipse is happening, I think, not so much on places with inhabitants. I don't know if you saw this, but the second one will be visible very much, almost big parts of Europe, States, Australia, the second one will influence us more than the first one. But anyhow, they're like set. We always look at the two eclipses together. We cannot separate them. So
I don't know what the ancients say about this eclipse, but we can add that don't launch rockets on a lunar eclipse. Elon Musk launched his rocket and it exploded.
Can you imagine? Oh my God.
Someone was saying these people spend billions on rockets. Spend $200 on an astrologer for a launch day. Don't launch on eclipse days anything so important and expensive. You know?
Wada, you know this funny saying? Who was saying this? That the difference between people with a person with astrologer and the one without is that the one with astrologer is a billionaire. Or what was this saying? It was very funny.
JP Morgan said, millionaires don't need astrologers, billionaires do, but even billionaires don't. We have to contact Elon Musk to set his teaching days at least.
Can
Sorry.
you imagine?
Oh, by the way, I wanted to say something, guys. Krasi is doing a course. Krasi is an incredible teacher. She's doing a very cheap course, 5-6 hours on the 12th of May. Was it 6th of May? Forgot.
6 May, Wada.
May, yes. And this course will be on practical astrological magic and how to use astrology to manifest, to create. And we have a special video about that, but it's just $69 if anyone would like to participate. It's all based on knowledge that is 4,000 years old. This is not some new astrological magic. This is very ancient knowledge that was used by high priests, high priestesses, only for the highest good, but no black magicking. It's more like working with the natural environment, like Krasi said, and
yes, and I was going to say, we made such course already in 2018. This one will also start with some introduction for people who did not watch the first course. So I will still make the introduction, Wada, with the most important principles and concepts that they need to apply to the astrological magic. And after that, we'll continue, of course, with more practical work, like how to work with, the natural sciences and in other details. But we'll still do, I'm saying this for the people who are new to this matter in general, that we will really start with, still with introduction, astrological introduction.
Yes, I'll put a link below for anyone interested to be part of this workshop. It's on Saturday. It takes most of the day, probably.
And we're experimenting. We chose the eclipse day.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's for magic. Eclipse day for magic is good, but not for material things. Like, no, we're not witches. We're actually all Christians here, and we love God and for the highest good of everyone. Absolutely. It's nothing negative. It's going to be recorded for someone who cannot be there live. They can watch it after that as well, or buy it for years to come after that. Anyway, talking about eclipses, second eclipse will be more badass, you say?
Yes, and also, Wada, I don't know if this is your experience, but the lunar eclipses seem to be more like felt by the people. The lunar eclipses.
The moon is the people. The sun, the solar eclipses is the those in power.
But again, I think that you should not be so worried, because yes, they are considered as dramatic events by the ancients, but we do not have these very heavy aspects which we had last year. It is not that heavy, really. I
remember last year, right? A few days after the eclipse, so in the eclipse corridor, my account was eclipsed because the eclipse fell on my 10th house cusp, midheaven. The lunar eclipse last year, and within a few days before or after that, they hacked my YouTube. That they had 300,000 following, did not want to restore it for 1 month. They said, we're never restoring your account, and I had to find connections to the high levels of Google. It took me 2 months of I lost all my business on this eclipse. It was a nightmare. Very happy that this one's not gonna be as extreme.
No, I think this one is not that heavy, definitely not. The other important, interesting thing in May, and see what a coincidence, if you believe in coincidences at all. Jupiter becomes visible on 12th of May, and he becomes visible in Aries. By the way, Jupiter is beautiful in Aries. He is in his own triplicity in fiery sign, I think very beautiful. Now, also one thing to mention, Jupiter entered just 2 days ago, Jupiter entered Aries. He was in Pisces 1 year, and now he entered Aries. But while he will be in Aries, he entered and he's invisible. While invisible, he's not really that we do not really feel his presence so much. After 12th of May, his blessing, his beautiful energy, his presence will be felt. And this is important because from Aries, he's sextiling the transit in Saturn, and this is softening the energy of Saturn, who in the meantime is in sidereal Aquarius. So this is important note I want to make. Also, on 12th of May, imagine Mars is entering Cancer, which is very tricky situation because Mars in Cancer is detriment fallen, and he will be there until 30 June, if I remember well. So this is quite a bit long transit of Mars in Cancer. So what to say? I don't see this as so malefic because Jupiter will be helping indeed, but we may need to watch out a little bit, especially people with Cancer, sidereal ascendant, or tropical Leo, or moon in Cancer, or people who are ruled by Mars in general. We will immediately feel this detriment position of Mars. Like watch out how you communicate with people. Don't get involved into risky, situation or disputes or conflicts. Just to say that in the meantime. So what I think we can start with the 12 ascendants in the meantime. Yes, we do 12 ascendants. And
Yes.
if something more appears that I forgot to mention, oh yes, also in May, Venus is entering Gemini, also quite helpful because she will be creating harmonious aspect to also to the transit in Saturn. So this will be fine. Now we are starting as usual with people who have sidereal ascendant Aries, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, for you this will be Taurus. Also, if you do not know your time of birth, if you do not know your ascendant, you can use your moon sign. So people who have sidereal ascendant Aries or moon in Aries, or tropical Taurus or moon in Taurus. So the same will be valid for all 12 signs. Now, for you, these eclipses now are happening on the axis of your ascendant descendant. But do not worry so much because last year, all 4 of the eclipses took place on this axis, and you are familiar already with these energies. And like I'm telling you, this time they are a little bit less afflicting, less heavy, because of these aspects of Jupiter and Venus, which I explained to you. So, of course, now already you are in the so-called Eclipse Corridor. This sounds a bit like cliche, but there is no other name. So this would say, be a bit careful in May because of these energies. Anyhow, Venus is entering Gemini, and this will be quite helpful, and this will be valid for the entire month of May for you. When you have eclipses influencing so much your ascendant, I would say avoid making very important decisions, very important new beginnings. In your relationship, be a little bit more patient, caring, intuitive, because these energies, nobody knows exactly to great detail what types of surprises they may bring. That's why be a little bit more careful, be spiritual, pray, do your spiritual practices. You will be well. Like I said, you had such 4 eclipses last year. In the meantime, also from 12th of May on, watch out a little bit when it comes to career, home, communication with parents. Be more also careful because Mars will be detriment on your 4th house. But this is not such a long period. It is just a point of attention. Now let's see people who have sidereal ascendant Taurus or a moon in Taurus, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this would be Gemini. And now for you, Saturn is still influencing by square your ascendant. This is a long aspect. It will be valid for 2.5 years. So depends, of course, on how Saturn is positioned in your horoscope, but you may need to be, because you're going through important career, occupation changes, you may need to remain diplomatic, careful there. The eclipse points and the lunar nodes for you are on your 12th houses axis. Of course, you may need to be a little bit more careful with your health, more responsible for your health, more careful not to get involved into any conflicting dispute situation with people that share your routine environment. Now, you may need, after 12th of May, you may need to be a little bit careful when you travel, when you negotiate, when you communicate with people abroad or with brothers and sisters. This would be a little bit point of attention. Financially, June doesn't look that, May, why I keep saying June, May doesn't look that bad, because Venus is entering Gemini and receives very harmonious aspect from Saturn, so I expect that the month will not be bad financially for you. Now we're looking at people who have sidereal ascendant Gemini or moon in Gemini, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this will be Cancer. Now for you, Mars is leaving your ascendant on 12th of May. He will enter your second house. This would say that you may need to watch out a bit for communication with family members. Watch out how you make financial decisions. Watch out a little bit with, be a bit attentive with children, and watch out how you communicate with your friends. In the meantime, the time for you for study, even for travel, is benevolent, is good. In May, Venus will enter your ascendant. This is quite good. This will be helpful for your romantic life, for your well-being. So I think also financially, this should give you good results. Now we're looking at people who have sidereal ascendant Cancer or moon in Cancer, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this will be Leo. Now for you, the eclipse is taking place on the axis of 10th, 4th houses. Of course, be a bit careful how you can, at work in general. I would advise you to wait a little bit, not really to undertake new initiatives, new actions. Be a little bit patient, wait and complete until these energies are completely over. I'll be a little bit careful on how you communicate with superiors, let's say. On the 12th of May, Mars is coming on your ascendant. He will stay there longer than 1 month. This would say that, especially after 12th of May, you may need to be a bit careful, especially when you, for yourself, be careful how you travel. Be careful to stay on the safe side, not to get involved into any conflicting or dispute situations. This may a little bit influence your romantic life, relationships, agreements, communication. So in these areas of your life, you also may need to be a bit patient, intuitive, loving with your partner, because Mars on your ascendant especially depends, of course, how Mars is positioned in your horoscope, but Mars can bring a bit of disharmony. So during this not such long period of time, you may need to be a bit more, patient, caring, careful. Now we're looking at people who have sidereal ascendant Leo or moon in Leo, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this will be Virgo. The eclipse for you is happening on the axis of Aries, Libra, 9th, 3rd houses. Of course, this can be benevolent and can open doors for knowledge, for information, even for travel, but still you may need to watch out how you communicate with people abroad, your media work, you may need to watch out more, how you negotiate, even how you travel. Even though on one side this can be good, can open doors for amazing information and knowledge. In the meantime, Mars is leaving your 11th house, entering the 12th house. Watch out a little bit not to create enemies in this period of time from 12th May to 30 June. Be a little bit more responsible for your health. In the meantime, Venus is entering your 11th house to support communication with children, even finances. So in this regard, this is fine. This will support also your romantic life because Venus will make very good trine to the transiting Saturn. Now let's look at people who have sidereal ascendant Virgo or moon in Virgo, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this is Libra. Now for you, this eclipse is taking place on the axis of 8 second houses. This says that you may need to watch out a little bit when it comes to financial decisions or the finances of your partner or finances from unexpected sources. Now, depends on your horoscope, but this could be interesting. On one hand, during the eclipse time, you can feel that your luck is a little bit locked when it comes to finances, but then after these eclipse energies are gone, this actually can create opening for deals that were not solved, on the axis of money and finances from unexpected sources or the finances of your partner. Now, for you, Venus is entering your 10th house. This will be very helpful during the whole month of May because she can bring blessing on your career. Also, Mars, on the other hand, is entering your 10th house after 12th of May. And this is a little bit, well, watch out a bit, be attentive with children, be careful not to get involved into any conflict, let's say, with people who are in your social environment or friends. Of course, also be careful how you make financial decisions because 11th house has to do with gains and finances too. But in the meantime, I see Venus quite helpful and the appearance of Jupiter on your 8th house after 12th of May also to be helpful when it comes to finances, finances of the partner too. Now we're looking at people who have sidereal ascendant Libra or moon in Libra, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this will be Scorpio. Now for you, Venus, which rules your ascendant, is going to be on your 9th house, very good. She will trine your ascendant to support your study, eventually travel, eventually negotiations. In the meantime, Mars is coming fallen, detriment on your 10th house after 12th of May, which says that you may need to be careful and very diplomatic at work, especially when it comes to superiors, even institutions, because Mars after 12th of May will be on your 10th house, not in his very best, in his greatest position. Jupiter becomes visible also after 12th of May on your 7th house. This can be lucky. This can support your romantic life. This can bring you some good news or something new and good in 7th house matters, like agreements, negotiations, some good things. Yes. Now let's look at people who have sidereal ascendant Scorpio or moon in Scorpio, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this will be Sagittarius. Now, for you, your ascendant ruler, Mars, after 12th of May, is entering your 9th house. 9th house in astrology is not a bad house. This is benevolent house, the house of the guru, but Mars is fallen. So make sure that he doesn't bring you disharmony when it comes to travel, completing education, or any matters related to knowledge and education. In the meantime, Venus will be benevolent immediately already in May on your 8th house. She may support there your well-being, fighting fears. She may support the finances of your partner or finances that you generate via partnerships or unexpected sources. Jupiter, the eclipses took place on the axis of Libra, Aries in your horoscope. These are 6 12th houses. Of course, watch out a bit more for your health, but on the 12th of May, Jupiter becomes visible and he will bring good news in relation to health, solving conflicts, so this is fine. In the meantime, don't forget that Saturn, for a very long time, until end of 2025, is on your 4th house, so depends how Saturn is placed in your horoscope, but still be careful how you communicate with parents in general, how you communicate at work with superiors. But this is something, it's a long transit. Anyhow, yeah, this is for Scorpio. Now we're looking at people who have sidereal ascendant Sagittarius or moon in Sagittarius, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this would be Capricorn. Now, for you, the eclipses took place on the axis of 5th, 11th houses. Of course, like I said, this is benevolent axis. On one hand, after the eclipse is over, this can, even though it may feel not very lucky, of course, but this can create opening for creative knowledge, even for lucky finances, but in the meantime, of course, it's important to be more attentive with children, to be careful when you make financial decisions a little bit, how you communicate with friends in your social circle. Now, of course, there is something good which will happen after Jupiter becomes visible, and this is, again, 5th house, some luck, some good news, some creative knowledge may come, and this is after 12th of May. Mars, good for you actually, is leaving your 7th house, where he was a bit disharmonious for your romantic life. And on 12th of May, he's entering your 8th house. This would say, watch out a little bit for finances, financial decisions, also your partner to watch out a little bit for how he or she make financial decisions. Venus, on the other hand, now already in May is entering Gemini to stay there, to bless your romantic life, to bless negotiations, to bless communication. So this will be quite fine. I mentioned Mars, yes. And now we're looking at people who have sidereal ascendant Capricorn or moon in Capricorn, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this will be Aquarius. Now for you, your ascendant ruler is already in Aquarius. We know that, nothing new here. And now Venus is entering Gemini, from where she will create harmonious aspect to Saturn. This will be fine. This will support your health. This will support your finances, your routine, everyday work. The Venus in your 6th house can even bring peace, can restore peace, especially in your routine, everyday environment, and can be good for your health, like I said. Mars on 12th of May is entering your 7th house, where he will be detriment. This would say during the entire month of May, you may need to be a little bit more careful when it comes to negotiations, when it comes to agreements, when it comes to communication with your partner. You have to be more diplomatic and more patient. Also, watch out a little bit. Make sure that when you travel, when you negotiate, you do this on very well chosen astrologically day. So this was another very important thing. Then also the axis of the eclipse is your 4th, 10th houses. Be careful at home with parents. Also how you communicate with institutions, with at work, with superiors, just to be a little bit more attentive, because like I said, after the corridor is over, we will have more clarity, which exactly changes the eclipses bring into our lives. But the good thing is that, yes, Mars is entering Cancer, where he may be a little bit challenging, but you also have great help from Jupiter, who on the 12th of May will also help you in your 4th house, where is your home, parents, also will have impact on your career. Now we're looking at people who have sidereal ascendant Aquarius or moon in Aquarius, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this will be Pisces. You have Saturn on your ascendant, nothing new here. The good thing is that Venus is entering Gemini, and she will trine your ascendant, and this is very good for you because this brings better feeling. You know, Venus aspecting always, she always gives this good Venus gorgeous energy. The eclipses take place for you on the axis of 39 houses. On one hand, they can open the gate for good knowledge or studies or interest in other education for you. Of course, especially before 12th May, watch out a little bit when you communicate, when you negotiate, when you travel. After 12th of May, Jupiter becomes visible and he will soften immediately the atmosphere. He will sextile your ascendant. He will trine your 7th house when you have your partner, agreements, relationships. So this is fine. On 12th of May, Mars is entering your 6th house to stay there during the entire May. So be more responsible for your health in the meanwhile, and also make sure that you be patient with colleagues, with people who share your routine environment. Make sure that you do not get involved yourself into any disputes or conflicting situation. And finally, we're looking at Pisces, or moon in Pisces sidereal, or if you're following the modern tropical astrology, this will be Aries. Now for you, the eclipse is taking place on your axis of 2nd, 8 houses. Both houses are, of course, influenced. And these are the houses of money, finances of yourself, finances of partner, family roots, if you want. So there you may need to be a bit more careful when you make financial decisions, because these eclipses may open doors for some important changes, especially when the energy of the eclipse is completely over. You may see changes happening in your financial sphere. Now, good thing for you is that Mars is leaving finally your 4th house, where he was not very harmonious for your career and home, but now he enters the 5th house of yours, which will say that you may need to be a bit more attentive, careful with children. Be careful how you, how you approach knowledge, pleasure. Make sure that you involve your intuition when you make such decisions. Also, how you communicate with friends. Venus replaces Mars in Gemini now in May, and she will support your home, your well-being also. She will bring peace at home, and she will influence for good also your career place. Oh, Lada? Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, so, and after 12th of May, just to conclude, Jupiter may bring you good news on your 2nd house, which is finances or peace with family people, with family roots, because he becomes visible there. This was for Pisces.
Thank you so much, Krasi, for leading us through the 12 signs. And thank you for the news about the eclipses as well. And again, if anyone would like a personal reading with Krasi, I'll put the link below. Or if anyone wants to be part of her course, day workshop on astrological magic, ancient astrological magic. Again, I'll put the link below for the class. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Have a blessed
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lada.
Bye-bye.